Welcome back to the Bluechip Breakdown, Vols fans. I'm your host, Bull. Happy Monday to everybody. In today's video, we're going to be finishing up our series of breaking down each position on our roster and then looking ahead to the 2025 class. Today, we're going to be doing quarterbacks, the star position, and safeties. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And we are also taking donations on our Cash App. So if you would like to donate, we're going to have that up in the top right-hand corner, and we would appreciate anything. It helps us out tremendously as we are still trying to grow. But let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, so we'll be starting off with the quarterback room, and this is a room of 5 players. We are projecting 3 to be with us next season, and that is not including GMAC. So starting off with the seniors, we have Gaston Moore, who is a redshirt senior. He's been with Coach Heupel and Coach Halsley for a very long time, but he's going to have to leave us after this season. I think that if we do get into a bond and, if we have to play him, that he can keep this offense moving. He should know it better than anybody else on this team. He's kind of like a player's coach, right? Like he's like a coach out on the field. And, I love his skill set. I like the way that he looked in the orange and white game. I think that he has really good command of the offense. Now, is he going to win you any ball games? I don't think so. But can he be a great game manager? Can he manage the offense at a, pretty high level? I think that he can. So everyone's always talking about, man, we don't have a very good backup quarterback. But I feel like Gaston Moore is underrated. I think that we're sleeping on him some. So please stop sleeping on my man Gaston Moore. The next player is going to be Navy Schuler, who is also a redshirt senior. And Navy is a player that is not as polished as a passer. I think he's a little bit better as a running threat. But I don't see him necessarily ever getting into a game when it counts. So that's not something for us to have to worry about. Hopefully, knock on wood, this season. And we don't have any juniors at all on this team. So moving on to the sophomores, obviously Nico Iamalayava, redshirt freshman. The redshirt really doesn't matter because he's probably only going to be with us for the next 2 seasons. But yeah, I mean, he's that dude, he's that guy. Even Josh Pate was saying that he is the next star of college football, but we've been telling y'all that for a long time, and you'd have to kind of be living up under a rock to not know that. But Nico is the real deal. I think he's going to have a phenomenal season. I've been on record several times saying I feel like this is going to be a Heisman season for him. And it could end up being a national championship season as well. I just think that there's so many places that if we're kind of coming up shorthanded at, Nico can make up for that, right? We kind of talked about it with the offensive line. Hey, if the left tackle isn't getting his block, and Nico can kind of fill that, and because he's so, tall, so long, and so quick, so fast, he can make things happen. And he has a great arm, great touch, great anticipation. And everything that I've heard about him is that, he works really hard. And, he studies film. He knows football on a very, very high level. That's what you need at the quarterback position. Also have heard the coaches just talking about, man, we need for him to be a little bit more vocal. So that's, something that he's been working on. And I know that that his teammates look up to him. You can just tell every time that they're talking about him, they're always gushing over him. And the biggest thing for me, the biggest takeaway that I have of Nico coming out of spring ball is with his sit down with Austin Price in that Ball Club Confidential, where Austin Price asked him, who are you most looking forward to playing this season? And Nico said that he can't wait to see them doggone dogs. So that's how you notice you got a star in the making. He wants to go play up against the best teams or the teams that are considered the best. And he wants to go down to Athens and prove a point. So love Nico. We're in great hands with him. Nothing to worry about there. The next player that is a sophomore is Ryan Dameron. He's a redshirt freshman. And I think he's more of a walk-on player. I haven't seen much of him, but whenever I do see him, he looks like he's got a pretty solid arm. I would maybe compare him a little bit to like a Navy Schuler, but maybe Navy Schuler would be a little bit more polished as a quarterback than he is. And that it's not even necessarily like from a technical and fundamental perspective, but I think just in understanding how to operate this offense. Now on to the freshmen, we have Jake Merklinger. We call him Merk. That's my dog. Okay. He's from South Georgia. I was very impressed with him in spring ball in that orange and white game. I think that he, on the first couple of days, whenever we're just going through watching his film in practice, from the limited clips that we get to see, I thought that he wasn't the best, but you can tell that he picked it up. He learned. It's something else that we heard about Nico is he doesn't make the same mistakes twice. I don't know if that the same thing can be said about Jake Merklinger, but he seems to have that same it factor about him. And he's another quarterback that's very mobile and, again, great touch, great timing, great anticipation. So once his time comes, I think that battle between him and GMAC is going to be a really good one. So we're in good hands right now. Okay. This quarterback room doesn't look very deep, but moving forward, I would say for the next 2 to 3 seasons, our quarterback room should be one of the best in the entire country. All right, now on to recruiting. The only player that we are recruiting is already committed, and that is George McIntyre. We call him GMAC. 5-star quarterback from Brentwood Academy in Nashville, Tennessee. We all know about him, man. 6'5", 6'6", about 200 pounds now. I heard that he has been gaining weight. And we'll just kind of, go through his profile and all that. It came down between us and Alabama, but we felt very strongly that he would be coming home to Tennessee. I think he's got like 20 or 30 family members that went to the University of Tennessee. So he's going to be a very passionate player for our Volunteers. And you have to love his game because got a very strong arm, again, very tall, very long, very wiry, but he can also run. And once he adds that weight, I think that running portion of his game is going to be something that's a little bit overlooked. Now, he does like to be more of a pocket passer, and I think he can make all the throws already. He's only going to be getting better. Don't know if he's going to be graduating from Brentwood Academy or if he's transferring. I've heard a few different things, but GMAC for sure is an absolute star already. He's already a fan favorite because he's going out and he's trying to help us recruit as many other blue chip players as we can possibly get. We know that he's very close with guys like Jamie French, with David Sanders. I think that we're going to be able to land David Sanders. A lot of that's going to be because of GMAC. But yes, we are done at quarterback for 2025. I do not see this staff going out and targeting anyone else. I just don't see any reason to. But like we talked about earlier, him versus GMAC, once Nico does leave us, is going to be a great battle. I have no idea who's going to win, but I can tell y'all this Tennessee is in a great position right now with quarterbacks. All right, now let's talk about the star and safety positions on our roster currently. Both of these rooms have a total of 13 combined. We are expecting that we will have 9 to 11 returning next year. Now, I think that everyone inside of this room or everyone on this list can either play star or either safety position. If you see a star next to their name, then that means that I think that they are more of a star player. And we're going to be starting off with the seniors and Christian Charles, who's a redshirt junior. Now, you see the star next to his name, which means that I feel like he's going to be more of a star player, but again, he can play both of the safeties. He is usually hurt, okay? So we haven't seen much of Christian Charles. He's a bigger body guy, right? Like I think he's about 6'1", 6'2", maybe close to 200 or a little bit over 200 pounds. He looks pretty good in coverage. He might not be the best in man-to-man, but in zone, I think he looks great. And he's going to be really good as far as getting off blocks, coming up and being physical at the point of contact. Don't know how much he's going to play this season just because I don't know how healthy he's going to be. But if he is healthy, expect for him to get rotated in, I would say, pretty heavily. And, we would more than likely need him at some point this year. So hopefully we will see that and he will play well. Now, if he plays enough and if he plays well enough, then he could be a guy that could be leaving us next season, all right? He's a redshirt junior, but more than likely he will be returning in 2025. Now, the next player is Andre Turrentine. He's another redshirt junior. We've talked a lot about him and John Slaughter, who we'll get to here in just a minute. At the safety position next to Kobe Thomas, we all know that I think that Andre is the guy that's going to be a little bit better in man-to-man coverage, but not as good at being physical. If he can be more physical, then yeah, he might end up being the starter this season just because he's played a lot more football. He's a veteran, so if he does come out, if he plays well, same thing with Christian Charles. And I would say maybe everyone else on this list, they do have a chance to get drafted at some point. So we'll look out for that this season. Now on to Kobe Thomas at the other safety, redshirt junior. I think that he's going to be plug and play. Talked a whole lot about him being shut down in man-to-man coverage and zone coverage, understanding football well. So he is going to make plays. He plays with that passion. He's a hard-nosed guy. He likes to hit. So I think that he's going to be an absolute and total star for this team at the other safety position. But he could also play star, but I think that he's definitely is more of a safety guy. Now on to the next player, Will Brooks, redshirt senior. So he will not be joining us next season. Will Brooks came in, I want to say towards the end of our season, maybe around November, maybe like against Georgia, I want to say he actually got a start, or he came in because someone went down or whatever. I think that he held his own, right? I think he was a starter for the rest of the year, and he can also play star, but he's not as athletic as some of these other guys. He's not a player that I would necessarily want to see starting at either of the safety positions, but can he come in and spell some guys? For sure he could. He's really good in run support. He does a pretty good job in coverage as well. He's not going to be the best in coverage, and I think that that's my biggest knock on him. But yeah, he's going to play hard. He's going to know what to do. He's going to help get everyone lined up. So looking forward to him having a big send-off season. Definitely rooting for Will Brooks. The next player is going to be William Wright. He's another redshirt senior, so he will not be back next season. And William Wright, a little bit similar to a Will Brooks, but maybe not as consistent in his level of play. Not really expecting for him to get out on the field too much. I think that him and Will Brooks are both walk-on guys. Will Brooks might have a scholarship at this point, but I'm pretty sure that William Wright is not on scholarship. Next player is Montreal Bandy, who really could be playing anywhere in the secondary. I think he's more of a cornerback, but 6'3", as a redshirt junior. And I think that he could definitely play at the star position or at either safety. Haven't seen a whole lot of him. I saw him some in spring, just kind of like going through the regular drills. He looks like a really good athlete. So we'll see if he ever gets the opportunity to play, but I think he's going to be a lot more of a special teams player for us. Now onto the juniors, we've got Jordan Thomas. You see the star next to his name. He's probably going to be the starter at the star position. 6'2", looks like he's about 215 to 220 pounds. Now, kind of reminds me of where T-Mac was at last season. And P and I would always talk about, man, who's going to come in and replace T-Mac for us, because Jordan Thomas is another one that tends to be a little bit more injury prone. But I'm expecting big things from Jordan Thomas this season. He's a guy that can play man-to-man coverage. Might not be the best in that, but in zone, really, really good. I love him in run support. He gets off of blocks very quick, like almost lightning fast. And he's kind of like that, lane player that's almost like a linebacker. So, it's tough to replace a player like that has the skill set at his size. Expect a really big year from Jordan Thomas. The next player is Christian Harrison. I also have him as more of a star guy, but either one of these two junior players can play safety, and I think that they could do it at a really high level if we need them to. So Christian Harrison, who, has played everywhere inside of the secondary. I love him in man-to-man coverage. He looks really good going through all these drills. He's also physical. That's something that I, watch very closely in these tackling drills. Who's, taking that extra right? That extra pop, that extra burst. That's what you need, especially for a star or a safety player. I think that Christian Harrison has all that. A lot of folks don't talk, enough, I think, about Christian Harrison. He's a guy that can be a very viable option at either one of these or at, any three of these positions, because it's really two safeties. So I'm also looking forward to Christian Harrison having a really good season. Now for the sophomore, we've got John Slaughter, and talked a whole lot about him, right? Just like Andre Turrentine. Now, he's not terrible in man-to-man coverage, right? But he does need to improve there. If I had any knock on him, that would be it. Now, I will say this. If you look at him, you go back to the spring clips, you see the way he looks in those drills. He looks really, really good doing it. So maybe he is the total package at that position. I still think that he's going to be the starter, but whenever it comes to coming downhill, to filling those lanes, he's going to do that with absolute no question. And that's why I would love to see him as the starter. I just think that it would make our entire defense so much better to have a real enforcer next to Kobe Thomas. You have two real enforcers on the back half of your defense and playing in the middle of that field. Yeah, man, we can pose some real problems and, put some fear into the heart of opposing offenses. That's why I want John Slaughter to be the starter. Now on to the freshman. We've got Edris Farouk, who is a safety. I think that he really came on strong towards the end of spring. So we'll see how he does primarily on special teams this season. Could he come in and really play? I don't think that he could start for us by any means. I don't think that he's ready for that just yet. But maybe towards the end of the season, he could be a guy that we could throw in there and that we can trust. The next player is going to be Caleb Beasley. Now, I did have him with my cornerbacks as well, but I think that Caleb Beasley, once he gets back, can also play star, or he could play safety at a really high level. We said this watching his high school film. He's a bigger body guy, and he's very physical, but he's also going to be great in coverage. So we'll see what happens there whenever Caleb Beasley comes back. The next player is going to be Boo Carter at the star position. Now, a lot of folks are saying that he could end up running away as the starter at some point this year. And if that does happen, I would say that, something bad happened, right? Like someone either went down, which would probably be Jordan Thomas, or maybe one of our safeties, and we had to make a move to put Jordan Thomas as a starter at safety. But it is good to know that everyone's so high on Boo Carter as a player that can come in. And, it feels and sounds like we trust him from day one to maybe be a starter if need be. And I love what I saw from him. He gets downhill quick, fast, and in a hurry, just like we saw on his high school film. And he makes good sound fundamental tackles. He's just a freaking baller, period. So he is a star in the making, not just at the position, but, I think as a human being, he's got that Hollywood personality. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a little slice of that NCAA, or not NCAA, but that EA Sports cover in 2026. On to the last player inside of this room is Marcus Gorey Jr. He also came in as a safety, but he did make the transition to cornerback. I think that he could play anywhere in the secondary. A very versatile player. I think that the same thing could almost be echoed for every single player in our secondary. But, he's a guy that is very, very physical. I love the way he looked in man-to-man coverage. Does a great job at the line of scrimmage, being patient, but also being physical and staying on top of the routes. Marcus Gorey is going to be a really good player. Do not forget his name. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him make some plays for us this season, even if it's just on special teams. So let's go ahead and take a look at the recruits that we have, we're targeting for the 2025 class. And right here at the top, our one and only commit so far in this class is Sidney Walton, who is a safety. He's a 3-star from Moody, Alabama, 6'2", 185 pounds. And this came down between us and Ole Miss and a few other schools, but he is a player that we really liked his film breakdown. He's another one that's very versatile. He could play either one of the safeties, and I also think that he could play star for us if need be. And heck, maybe even cornerback. I think that he's a little bit raw, but he's going to grow into a tremendous, tremendous player for us. And I'm very happy that the staff did close out on at least one safety so far in this class. Let's go on to the next player. And that is Shady Hayward from Lyons, Georgia, down there in Toombs County. He's a very heavy Vol lean at this point, 6'1", about 200 pounds. He looks a lot bigger than that on film. And right here, it's saying that Georgia is in the mix. I don't think that they are. He is going to be visiting our Volunteers on June the 21st, but he is going to be visiting the other team that I think is really in play right here, and that is Florida State on May the 31st. Also going to be visiting USC. I don't think he's going to be going there. And the Florida Gators, I don't think he's going to be going there either. But being from South Georgia, usually with Tallahassee being so close, you do tend to see a lot of those players either going to like a Florida State or, Georgia. That's typically how it goes. I don't think, that he wants to go to Georgia. Usually if you're from Georgia, you either love him or you hate him. He kind of makes me feel like he hates him, which makes me love him that much more. But he's a dog. We actually talked about him before, saying, hey, man, he's a guy that the staff might want to grow into a linebacker. That's what they were talking about. But he could also kind of stay put at safety. He's just an extremely versatile athlete. And I am looking forward to how his visit goes. I think that he may end up committing on that visit. I just would not be surprised to see that happening, but that would be huge. This is a player that is underrated as a 4-star. I can tell you that right now. He should be a 5-star all day long. Next player is going to be Jaden Perlotta. We've talked a lot about him as well. You can see right here that he is committed to Georgia. 4-star. He's listed as a linebacker, 6'3", about 6'4", over 200 pounds, 215, 220 pounds. Some of y'all might be asking, why do you have him in here as a safety? Well, that's actually pretty much what he plays in high school. He just, kind of like plays in that lane, very like tweener-esque. And it's not really safety. It's more of the star position. I think that he would be a prototype player at that position. He can cover down the field. I'm telling you that right now. He's a very, very special talent. And he is going to be visiting our Volunteers on June the 14th. But he has a couple of other visits with Auburn, with UGA, with Alabama, and with Miami. Now, I do, believe, honestly, that Tennessee's in a really good spot, though. It's going to be up to the staff to close out, but his family is very interested. And, if Tennessee puts that full court press on Jaden, I think that he could come away a Volunteer, but he's probably going to be a guy that takes all of his visits, weighs out all of his options. But it will be huge for our Volunteers to be able to add a player like Jaden Perlotta because, again, he could play linebacker, but he could also play star. And I think that he could come in and be a starter from day one if he does play at the star position. All right, and the last player that we'll be talking about today is Aiden Manutai. Hope I'm saying his name correctly. 6 feet tall, 170-pound, 3-star safety from Hawaii. And I think that he's a little bit better than a 3-star. I love him in coverage. He looks like a player that could also play cornerback, but he, wants to come up and get physical with you as well. This is a guy that you're not seeing a whole lot of buzz with so far, just on this site, but I'm telling you, he really likes Tennessee a lot. And we are going to get an official visit from him on June the 7th, but he's also going to be visiting Washington, Nebraska, and Penn State. I think that they're in a really good position with him. I also think he's going to be visiting Cal, but he's a guy that, I think the staff covets very, very highly. It's rare that we go that far away to try to get a player, but that's an important place to try to have a good footprint with. And I think that we do well with the Polynesian players. We have several on our team right now. They're, usually phenomenal athletes. They're really good at football. And I would love to add him to this roster. Now, I don't know how many players we're going to be taking at safety or at star this season, but we already have one commit at the safety position. We talked about it. He could play anywhere inside of the secondary. Talking about a guy like Shady Hayward, I feel like he's, very similar at, he could play star, he could play safety, and he could also play linebacker. I feel like he's all Vol. Heading into the summer, we're trending in the right direction for him. And as long as the staff pretty much doesn't drop the ball, he should be committing over the summer. So if you add him to a guy like a Jaden Perlotta, who I can also tell you the staff is in a really good position with, if we can close out on both of these two players, Now all of a sudden we have a lot more options with him. Okay, we have a lot more flexibility, and Jaden would more than likely end up playing linebacker if we get both of them. But again, I think that he could play star at a very high level. I also feel like Aiden is a player that, as quiet as this is kept, I just have this sneaky feeling that he loves Tennessee. You're hearing him talking about us saying, "Hey man, Tennessee really, really wants me." And yes, it is very far away from his home, from where most of his family is, as far as I know. But if we bring them up on campus, if he feels very comfortable in his visit, then yeah, maybe they say we just want to pull the trigger and, we want to come on home. So we're talking about potentially adding 3 more players to that secondary and really more specifically to this room with the stars and with the safeties. And, that would be a phenomenal job by the staff if we can close out that way. Now, outside of that, right, I think that this team from top to bottom, offense, defense, special teams, is in a really great position with several players, not just as far as the ones that we're targeting for 25, 26, 27, so on and so forth, but also with the players on this team currently, right? Like, we're heading into the end of the month. A lot of the new faces will be up on campus, and there's players that are currently on the roster that need to continue to get better. And really that goes for everybody. Everyone needs to be getting better, but we gotta, find our guys. Our depth chart is about to get very solid over the summer. And also at the end of the month, we had this 865 live event where several blue chip players will be up on campus, either for the first time or for the third, fourth, fifth time before the summer really kicks off. And they're going to be coming back to us for an official visit and also going out to other schools for their OVs. So this is a very, very critical time that we're coming up on. And I just wanted to get this out for y'all so that we have a good idea of where we stand at, how we're looking, so that we are all more educated heading into the so important summer months. I've said this before, I believe it was in the comment section, that this summer is going to be critical for Josh Heupel for this program. Moving forward, if we want to be a team that's always mentioned as a playoff contender and as a championship contender, we've got to finish strong over the next few months heading into the season. And I think that we will. But that's going to be it for this video. Let me know y'all's thoughts down in the comment section. And as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. And please consider donating to the channel. We would greatly appreciate it. Thanks. Peace.